tonight, you will probably sleep spread out on a large mattress in a room heated to a comfortable 70 degrees. But if you lived in 17th century Northern Europe, sleeping alone in a large room meant risking death. To survive the night, you would climb inside a piece of heavy wooden furniture called a box bed. You would crawl inside, pull the solid wooden doors shut behind you, and sleep shoulder to shoulder with your entire family. Sometimes, you'd even let a passing traveler squeeze in. You didn't heat the house. You trapped your collective breath and body heat in a dark, oxygen-deprived wooden box just to survive until morning. The way we survive winter today is a historical anomaly. You walk to a wall, press a button, and the entire house becomes summer. For 99% of human history, heating a whole room was an impossible luxury. The golden rule of winter survival was simple. You do not heat the room. You heat the microenvironment around your body. That wooden box bed wasn't just for privacy, it was a survival pod. By sealing the doors, you trapped the body heat of 4 or 5 people in a tiny space. It got incredibly warm and deeply claustrophobic. People occasionally suffocated in them, but it kept the frostbite away. If you were wealthy enough to have a standard bed, you had a canopy bed. Today, a four-poster bed with curtains looks romantic. Historically, those heavy velvet or wool curtains were purely functional. You pulled them tightly shut at night to create a heavy tent of trapped heat. Without them, you would literally wake up with frost on your blankets from the moisture of your own breath freezing in the air. But what about when you had to leave the bed? Think about getting into your freezing car today and blasting the heat. 300 years ago, sitting in a freezing stone church for 3 hours required a wearable fireplace. Women across Europe and early America carried foot stoves. These were small, perforated wooden or metal boxes filled with glowing coals taken straight from the hearth. Once seated, a woman would place the foot stove on the floor and drape her heavy woolen skirts completely over it. The skirt acted like a tent, trapping the hot air against her legs and torso. It was brilliant, but it was highly dangerous. If a coal slipped or the fabric caught, the wearer could go up in flames. Medical records from the era are full of severe burns on the shins and calves of women who just wanted to survive a Sunday sermon. Even the furniture in the house was designed as winter survival gear. Think about a classic high-backed armchair or a wingback chair. The tall wooden back wasn't for posture. We think of an open fireplace as cozy, but early fireplaces were horribly inefficient. A traditional open hearth pulls freezing air from the cracks in the doors and windows to feed the flames, while 80% of the heat goes straight up the chimney. If you sat facing the fire, your front would be roasting, but the fire would pull freezing drafts right into your back. The high back of the chair was a physical shield. It blocked the freezing drafts hitting your spine, while capturing the radiant heat from the fire and reflecting it around your body. You were essentially sitting inside a wooden heat reflector. If you didn't have heavy furniture, you used a different kind of heater, a 1,000-pound farm animal. Right now, your home probably smells like laundry detergent or coffee. But for centuries, the smell of winter survival was unwashed wool, stale sweat, and cow manure. Across Europe and parts of Asia, agrarian families built byre dwellings. These were longhouses where the humans lived on one side or on the upper floor, and the cattle, sheep, and pigs lived directly underneath them. Animals are massive biological radiators. A single cow generates about as much heat as a 1,000-watt space heater. The heat from the barn rose through the floorboards, warming the human living quarters. Yes, the smell of ammonia was eye-watering. The air was thick and heavy, but ammonia meant you survived January. To trap all this heat, you needed wearable architecture. We think of clothing as fashion. Historically, winter clothing was a mobile shelter. You built layers. Linen went against the skin to catch the body oils and sweat, and heavy, dense wool went on the outside to trap dead air. Washing heavy clothes in a frozen river was agonizing, and it took days for them to dry, so you just didn't do it. You wore the exact same layers for months. In some Arctic cultures, survival meant relying entirely on animal skins and smearing exposed skin with animal fats like seal oil. The fat acted as a physical barrier against the biting wind. It locked your body's moisture in and kept the frostbite out. But external heat was only half the battle. If you want a fire, you need fuel. In winter, that fuel was food. Today, you probably eat roughly the same amount of calories year-round, but before modern heating, winter forced the human body into overdrive. Just to maintain a core temperature of 98.6 degrees in a drafty, freezing cabin, your metabolism had to burn massive amounts of energy. This is known as diet-induced thermogenesis. If you were wealthy, you ate heavy animal fats, dense stews, and preserved meats. But if you were poor, the cold was a double threat. You didn't just freeze because the air was cold. You froze because you literally ran out of calories to burn. Your internal furnace simply ran out of wood. Before your body adapts to the cold, its first defense is violent muscle contractions. Shivering can increase your body's heat production by up to 5 times its resting rate. But shivering burns through your energy reserves incredibly fast. Over time, populations who lived in extreme cold developed biological adaptations. Some modern hunter-gatherers and our ancient Neanderthal cousins developed specialized fat deposits. Brown adipose tissue, or brown fat, acts like a built-in heating pad. Unlike regular fat, which just stores energy, brown fat burns energy to generate heat directly without you ever needing to shiver. But even with brown fat and heavy wool, maintaining the external fire was a matter of life and death. You couldn't just turn a dial and go to sleep for 8 unbroken hours. Many historians believe that before the Industrial Revolution, people practiced biphasic sleep, meaning they slept in two distinct shifts. You would go to sleep when it got dark, wake up around midnight for an hour or two, and then go back to sleep until dawn. This wasn't just a quirky habit, it was a practical necessity. Someone had to wake up to stoke the hearth. If the fire died in the middle of a blizzard, the entire household could freeze before morning. That midnight waking was a time to add logs to the fire, check on the animals, and huddle together for warmth. Today, winter is an aesthetic. It's a holiday season. It's skiing, hot chocolate, and watching the snow fall through double-paned glass. We have entirely insulated ourselves from the reality of the cold. We no longer smell the livestock beneath our floorboards. We no longer risk suffocation in a wooden box just to retain our body heat. We don't carry burning coals under our clothes. But in conquering the cold, we also lost something deeply human. Surviving winter used to be a communal act. It forced families into a single bed. It forced humans and animals under a single roof. It required a constant, shared vigilance over a single hearth. Winter used to be a monster that waited outside the door, and the only way our ancestors kept it out was by holding on to each other.